When I go to Sacramento, I will pump up Sacramento.
Some say the news is fake. Others say it's real. These two don't have the time to check. Instead, Turner Sparks and Michael Ira Kaplan turn to comics stationed around the globe to be their eyewitness reporters so that you can know what's really going on. This is Lost in America.
All right, everybody, welcome to Lost in America, episode 202. My name's Turner Sparks.
And I'm Mike Kaplan.
You can find me at turnersparks.com. You can buy my comedy album, Turner Sparks, live from the Friars Club. I recorded it live at the Friars Club in New York City. As you might expect, you can get that at turnersparks.com. Go get it. Buy an actual CD, like the things we use. I'll sign it. I'll send it to you. How about that? Give it to somebody for Christmas. You can find Kaplan on Instagram at Cap in America. This show is also on Instagram, Lost in America Pod, and go to lostinamericapod.com to watch the video. We put all the videos on YouTube. The audios all go on the podcast. And we got to thank the audience, Kaplan, because this is every week in the last 8 weeks since we switched to this format, we've had more listeners every single week. At some point, we're going to take down Joe Rogan.
We are. In Armenia, we've already taken him down. You should tell everyone.
I didn't even announce it.
Yeah, we're the #1 comedy podcast in all of Armenia this week. So
the whole country.
The whole damn country. That's a true story. The real charts.
And number 8 on just podcasts in Armenia. That includes what does the Queen of England have a podcast? I don't know who has a podcast.
The Armenian Soccer Report. It includes everything. So
there's 100 million podcasts out there. We're the 8th most liked.
Yes. So there you go.
So we just need to take countries one by one.
Each country. New Zealand this week. We're going to be monitoring the charts.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say alphabetical, but it'll take us a while to get to New Zealand. So.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Armenia, Azerbaijan. We're probably not as big there, apparently. So we're going to book
We did get a little bit of a hate mail.
We got some hate from them, yes.
About Azerbaijan. Here's the issue, is that we had on an Armenian comedian, right? Mm-hmm. And he told us all about the conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan. And people wrote in, they're like, that was a one-sided conversation. It's like, of course it was one-sided. The guy's from one country.
You want him to be self-hating Armenian? I mean, that's the thing. He's going to tell his side. And we've always said this, that we don't know anything. We're idiots. So we will take the side of whoever talks to us.
Yeah.
So we can be had. If you want to, any Azerbaijani comedians who want to join the show next week, maybe we'll flip-flop.
Let us be your patsy.
We are. Yes, exactly.
We'll be your stooge. But Kaplan, we should do this. Because, we have Patreon, by the way, this show is free every Monday, but then 3 extra days a week, Kaplan and I put out a show on patreon.com/Lost in America. That show's called Live from the Bunker. For $5 a month, you get that show. You get all 3 of those shows for $5 a month total. And that's how we do this podcast. That's how we can keep going. So you're a promoter, you're a supporter of the podcast. We don't have sponsors. We don't have Tide. We don't have
Tide. They're big sponsors of a lot of podcasts.
They sponsor a lot of podcasts with Bleach, by the way. We don't have them. We don't have stamps.com. We don't have any of these people. We have we have you. We have the people of the world.
But we should say it's not a charity. This is not just charity. You are getting a good program. You get a backlog of over 100 now episodes. The entire history of this quarantine situation, live from our bunkers, life in New York City, me with my kids home, dealing with homeschooling, you dealing with being nearly arrested for having a gathering, all sorts of stories you're getting.
And what I was going to say is that we had some people write in and say, it's one guy, I know him. He's like, hey, I worked in Azerbaijan for a year. He was working for BP doing oil. I don't know if that was shady or not. But I said he had a different side to that story. I said, come on, Live from the Bunker. Come on that show and give that side. So maybe we should start doing follow-ups to this show over on that show to get more people to sign up. But
that's a great idea.
Today, we have Nick Rado. He is a comedian I met 10 years ago at the Hong Kong International Comedy Festival. That's his biggest credit. But I'm going to read some of his other credits in a minute before we bring him on. That's also my biggest credit. But he's going to talk to us about the Prime Minister. They have this Prime Minister. She's the talk of the world. She just got reelected, I believe, yesterday or 2 days ago. Jacinda Ardern is her name. Kaplan, what do you know about her? Because she's the hot ticket. Move over Justin Trudeau.
She's the female Trudeau. It's the cooler answer. It used to be cool to move to Canada. If you were like
For
during
Americans.
the Bush years, if
It
you're
was
an American,
threat.
you would say you were Canadian. You put the little sticker in your backpack when you traveled, and
You go, if my president doesn't win in the next election, I'm moving to Canada.
yeah, they threatened that when the Kerry election. They threatened it with Trump. But now people have gone more extreme. A lot of people are saying they're going to move to New Zealand because they solved the coronavirus.
That's the
China
New York
plague.
City
They
answer.
kicked it. That's the New York City answer. But they don't know anything about New Zealand. I'm confident they know less than even we know. What do we know? I know that they say Kiwi, that she's a Kiwi, Jacinda, right?
Is that derogatory?
I don't think so, but we'll find out. I mean,
You're throwing these words around willy-nilly.
Back in my single days, I met a few Kiwis, and I think they were comfortable with the term.
Oh,
so they're lovely people. And I think she is like, it's almost like the cool thing is to say she's like the woke, not woke, but she's like, people don't really know anything about her. They just like her because she's young, and they assume she said, like, I thought she said the okay boomer thing.
I did too.
Yeah, but
we were wrong.
We already found out during our research that somebody else in New Zealand said okay boomer, but they
invented okay boomer.
Invented the term okay boomer. So we got to give them people credit for that. And we know that they solved coronavirus, but I also know that it's an island and it's like a spacious area. So I don't know how much credit they really deserve for this. But
that's what we're going to find out. Where did she come from? What are her politics? I think there are people in New York City who say, if Trump wins, I'm moving to New Zealand next week. And for all they know, she could be more ridiculous than Trump.
She could be Margaret Thatcher over there with a younger, I was going to say a pretty face, but I don't want to be called problematic. So I'll just say
it's 2020, Kaplan.
Yeah, exactly. But people they assume she's like super like left, like AOC or something, you know. People to hear, they assume like New Zealand's this paradise of progressiveness.
Well, let's get into it. Nick Rado, before I want to read your credits. Besides the 2010 Hong Kong International Comedy Festival, you were also you're on Netflix on a show called Short Poppies. Not Tall Poppies, Short Poppies on Netflix. Everybody check that out. You were also voted the best male comedian in New Zealand for 2019 and the 5-time Best Comedy MC in New Zealand. And you're the head writer for a show called 7 Days, which is a political comedy show. So we have on the right person, right?
Yeah, you'd think so. Thank you for the big introduction, by the way. And it was interesting, some of the things that you guys were saying about New Zealand. And yes, it's not derogatory to call us Kiwis. Yeah, it's fine. It's great. You can definitely do that. We call ourselves Kiwis. Solving the coronavirus, I think that's a bit of a leap, but we'll say that we just kept people out that had it. But
okay,
you hear that, liberals?
yeah,
kicks foreigners out or all people?
Oh, mate, it was basically, so we get 1 p.m. briefings every day of how the status is in New Zealand. So at the moment we have no community transmission, so we can walk around, do as we please in New Zealand. But we have these cases that are at the border, so they're in like quarantine. You know, people, expatriates that have come in and they have to be quarantined in these different hotels. But New Zealanders see those numbers, and as long as there's no community transmission, as long as no one's walking around with it, honestly, those people who are in quarantine, they're dead to us. Like no one cares about them at all. They're like, 3 people have corona. Oh yeah, whatever.
Now, do they even get doctors, or are they just left to fend for themselves?
I feel like it's like a Lord of the Flies type situation. I think in those hotels, like we just lock them in, and then if they can survive the 2 weeks, they're allowed to roam with us. But it's a pretty weird time. We had a little bit of a setback. I think it was about 2 or 3 months ago. We went like 100 days corona free, and then it got back in. It seeped back into New Zealand.
How does it seep back in,
mate? So do you know what it was? Apparently, allegedly, I have to say, because it's not factually been proven yet. But I think I'm going to go out and say this is definitely how it happened. So it came from America.
Oh, come on.
Came from America.
Why'd you let us in? That's not very competent.
Because you know how it got in? It came in through this company called Americold, who like do freeze. Like,
they're not from here. They're
food.
from China.
Are they?
No, I'm just kidding. Americold.
Americold. They probably are, to be honest. It probably went via China as well. So anyway, but Americold, they do a lot of freezing food and that kind of stuff. And they reckon that it came in on the freezing side of it. And then but that's why they can't prove it, because it's like, well, there's no way to prove that one of the workers got it from there, and so on and so forth. So yeah, that's a bit of a. I'm going to throw that conspiracy theory just out there, just straight
we'll
off
take
the bat.
it. Why not? We haven't been a
Take
good
it.
scapegoat recently.
I could see the
Exactly.
CIA, because America's looked so bad through this whole process, the CIA sending Americans with COVID into other countries just to get their numbers up a little. Maybe because Europe's getting bad now. Maybe we're responsible. It's
I
possible.
think that's a good, tactical statistic move. Just if you want to, like, because you guys are very good at the Olympics, getting, some athletes high up in the table. This is probably the one table you don't want to be so high up on. So yeah, let's infiltrate some people with corona, let them in some of these countries that are doing well, and you get you guys floating back down that table. That could be a really good option.
When I realized you guys were just on a different level from us is when you had, I think it was June that you're talking about, when there was 2 cases in the country, and the health minister of the country stepped down or got fired because there was 2 cases in the whole country.
Well, do you know why he got fired though? Because
No,
so we were all we
That was
went-
a cover?
I think David Clark, I think is his name. I'll throw him under the bus. David Clark. So he basically was a health minister, and so we were in. So our whole thing that Jacinda said was "Go hard, go early." That was the phrasing.
It's like a football
That's
coach.
very problematic too.
Yeah, exactly. So depending on when you heard it at what time of the night, you got different meanings of that phrase. But "Go hard, go early" was our team tactic. We were a team of 5 million. That's what she called us, a team of 5 million. And so we just had a real severe lockdown of about, I think it was, it's hard to remember now, but at least 4 weeks. I want to say 6 weeks, where everyone was just like super strict. Couldn't even go out. You're only allowed to go out to exercise. It was a really serious lockdown, but it was the whole thing to eradicate it and to eliminate it. But here's what the health minister did. So he, whilst everyone was locked down, team of 5 million, the health minister, who abides or was supposed to be setting these rules, went on his, drove his car to like this sort of, this beach, this isolated beach, then went for a bike ride around the beach, going around these different areas and stuff of the country. And then the reason why he got caught out is because people in the car park who were walking in the area saw his name, and he went out in his face branded government car.
Like his license plate.
yeah, saying I'm the health minister, license plate, and then that's how they caught him. They took a photo of him and then they just went on like social media. What's this about? And then all of a sudden, he didn't get stood down just then, but then he made a whole bunch of other mistakes. Oh, this is the other thing as well. He moved house during lockdown.
Rules do not apply to this guy.
Mate, he is
This guy's the best.
he's immune. Yeah, he's immune. So that's why he got fired. But so that's the.
He should come
what's gonna
here.
go
We
down.
had because Chris Christie was the governor of New Jersey, and he closed all the public parks and beaches for 4th of July one year to like make some political point, and then went to the beach with just him and his family and got a million pictures. But he didn't step down. And then Nancy Pelosi just went and got her hair cut when she's like a congresswoman from California. She closed all the barbershops.
Crazy
and
Nancy.
we got a haircut, and she didn't step down either. Like no one in America steps down. They just
Mate.
they're like whatever. Yeah,
have
I
no
did it,
shame.
big deal, and you keep going. You move on.
I kind of admire it in a way, because it's like, you've got to have some perks of the job, right? Like, McDonald's workers, they get some money off their burgers. Maybe
They
you
get
can
free
get a
fries.
burger.
Yeah.
Free fries, the ones that sort of hang over the box, that don't quite make it into the box. You can have a couple of those. I feel like a health minister should be able to go to a beach, or, Nancy Pelosi, she should, get a haircut every now and again. I do admire it, but at the same time, quite hypocritical
a little bit.
in the grand scheme of things. But
So what's with Jacinda Ardern, Prime Minister?
Yes.
What do we call her, first of all? How would we address her? Not be
so
disrespectful.
depending on who you talk to, depending on who you talk to, is
I thought everyone loved her.
Auntie Cinder.
Oh, Auntie Cinder.
Auntie Cinder is a lot of people talk to her. People who don't like her call her Tax Cinder.
Taxinda.
Raising
Cinder.
taxes.
Raising taxes to get what she needs to get done. But yeah, no, she's awesome. She's Jacinda Ardern. I actually know her. Yeah, I've
conflict of interest.
I was
Good
going
way
to
to
say, this
disclose it.
interview's been compromised.
We're gonna get some hate mail from the Taxinda crowd already. I can see that.
Texas.
Settle down,
crowd, yeah.
Azerbaijan.
Yeah, Azerbaijan.
Oh yeah, so we hate Azerbaijan and New Zealand, by the way.
Oh,
Oh,
no.
God, here we go.
Kidding,
The death
I'm
threats
kidding.
are doubling now.
I'm kidding. She's really cool. So yeah, it's interesting you said at the top, like, what would you say? Would she be left leaning, right leaning, all that kind of stuff? I would say she's sort of pretty in the middle, but heads towards the left, if that makes sense. So,
Right.
but in some countries, I guess that would be like Canada, for example. I feel like Canada is super left.
Yes.
So we might be right compared to them, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But so for example, we are voting. So we just voted on the weekend. So we voted for the Prime Minister. So there's a couple of things going on. So we have an MMP. I don't even know, like how you would describe it. It's called MMP. It's how we vote. So we get a party vote.
Member of Parliament, or is it? Or
No. So I want to get this app. Like,
and by the way, we should say, Turner, we didn't mention the intro that they just had an election. I don't think we left that out.
Did I not mention that?
I think we might have forgotten it and just
That's
into
the whole
one.
reason why we're doing this.
I think we
it's
got
timely.
we got distracted.
Good catch. I didn't know.
Yes, there was a landslide
Yeah.
win, right? Or
yeah,
So
so
you just
landslide
got
win.
reelected. Yeah.
reelected. Yes,
reelected.
reelected.
So we have a voting system here called MMP, which is a mixed member proportional way of doing it. So basically what happens is the country votes and we all get 2 votes. So we get a party vote and we also get an electoral vote. So people in our region that we want to represent us. And so they could be from different parties. So you might want the Labour government to be the government of New Zealand, but in your local area, you might have, say, the national MP to represent you because they wanting to do things better in your area than the Labour person. So what happens is you have to get a minimum of 5% of the votes to have a seat in the House. We've got 120 seats, and depending on the different proportions of party votes and electoral votes and things, that's the way that the government is. The seats are distributed out. And for the first time in like 20 or 30 years using this system, Labour have done enough to govern on their own, because basically what happens is if you don't have enough party votes, you can team up with a couple of other people to get enough votes across the line to get the majority of the votes. And so that's what happened 3 years ago. Labour didn't actually win. Like Jacinda didn't actually win the election. They only got 38% and then National got 43% or something. But because they teamed up with the Greens and this other party called New Zealand First, they won by 1 seat.
Yeah.
And so, it's this mad combo. But then over the last 3 years, they haven't really not been able to do much because there's just so much conflict of interest going on because everyone's wanting their own different thing going.
So let's start with that, because that's what fascinates me first is a couple things. How the 2017, let's go back to when she won the first time. So
or lost the first one.
Yeah, lost, but then
but then won. Yeah,
but won by unifying. Yeah,
they won as a coalition
with a Green Party and with a right wing party.
Yes, that's
so
correct.
I want to. So New Zealand First. I looked them up, and they're
I could give you a clue what they're like. Just the
a
name.
little problematic. They're nationalist, right? They just want New Zealand to be first, but they are anti-immigration, anti-foreigner, pro. What was it? Was it pro? Maybe not pro guns. Pro. I can't remember exactly, but anyway.
Here's one thing that they were pro for: not taxing fruit and vegetables. So they're like, they have this weird out there, like as you say, anti-immigration, really
tough on crime.
Tough on crime. That
law
kind of
and
stuff.
order.
But then they'll have like this really amazing like law or something that what they want to bring into Parliament, which is not taxing fruit and veg, so that everyone can eat healthy. And everyone's like, "Yeah, that's a great idea."
That's a pretty reasonable way to suck you in.
Yeah,
they're keto racists.
That's how you get someone to join a cult by accident. You'd be like, "Oh, I agree with that. What else do you have to say?"
I love that.
Get on the paleo diet.
Yeah.
Hey, so that's
they have a lot of caveman ideas to go with their diet.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why it's so wild to me, because there's no world world in America where like a kind of center left-wing politician would be like, yeah, this is what I believe, but let me just I want to win. So let's just bring in, the KKK or not, whoever they might be. Let's bring in how does the public see that? If you're voting, do you be like, oh wow, she's immediately compromised, or it's just like, this is how it works. This is the cost of doing business.
Yeah, a little bit, because they had to sacrifice a lot to get him in. So National, who won, they only needed they did need New Zealand First to go with them, but they thought that he was just going to go with them anyway because they naturally aligned to their way of thinking.
National is the further right, we would say.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so they're more sort of businesses, farming. They're the kind of not giving money back into the
your standard conservative party. Kind of
pretty
sounds
much
like the American right of center.
No beneficiaries. Pull your bootstraps up, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Yeah, they're that kind of party. No wage subsidy. Like if Corona had happened when that they were in power, we all got a wage subsidy in New Zealand because Labor government was just like, here, everyone have some free money to tide us over. And then, but they wouldn't have. They said they wouldn't have done that. So naturally, New Zealand First and the party leader Winston Peters normally would go with National, but it was a really interesting turn of event because he basically went to both parties and said, what can you give me? And then Labor just bent over and just said, we'll give you can be the deputy prime minister. We'll give you the portfolio of his favorite pastime, which is horse racing.
Wait, he's in charge of horse racing?
He's in charge of horse
really?
racing.
That's a great way to buy.
Oh my God.
And who makes that deal? Does Jacinda make this deal, or does someone else in the party?
Yeah. I mean, I imagine there's, she has aides to help her do it, but there was all sorts of stuff there going on, and and he was, and then he was the foreign minister as well. So he was in charge of racing, which is greyhound racing and horse racing, and also he was
also foreign policy.
Foreign policy, they got free holidays, so basically he could go anywhere he wanted to. And
so international racing,
international racing, you could go to all the international racetracks, get some of the good tips to then take it back to New Zealand. But he got a really great deal, and I
respect this guy. That's what I would want to be in charge of. Gambling, basically.
Oh, totally, man. And he's really, he's kind of like, I want to say he's old, but I think he's younger than Donald Trump. But he's been around for years and ages. He's a bit of an alcoholic as well. He's kind of, drink, likes his drink.
Guy keeps getting better and better. So he likes fruit to be not taxed, but he also likes to drink.
I think that's just to ward off the scurvy. I think because back when he was a youngster, that was a real big problem. But it's been an interesting time. So back then, 2017, they did this massive coalition, and then the other big party that they went with was the Greens, which is what you think Greens would be. So really for legalizing cannabis, but also for the environment and that kind of thing. So
I mean, this is like an island of misfit toys with these three.
Pretty much.
They don't seem like they fit together in any way. If you voted for one or the other, are you happy, or is this just bizarre to the?
It was. I feel like not much got done. So they tried to do the big thing that they wanted to do was Kiwi Build, which was they had this. In New Zealand, house prices are. It's really expensive to live here. So house prices are really expensive. So like in Auckland, for example, where I live is the average house price is like 1.2 million New Zealand dollars. I'm not too sure what that is the US. It's probably maybe like 500,000 or 600,000 US. Yeah. So that's the average here. But in the city center, it's like 2, 3, 4 million. So it's kind of to get anywhere in the city center is, you're talking a minimum couple million to get a house or an apartment in there. And there's a shortage of housing as well. So they wanted to do this introduction of Kiwi Build, which they said, we're going to promise to build 6,000 houses within like a year or something. And then I think after 2 years, I think they'd built like 104.
Yeah.
So they really underestimated their numbers there. So it was this massive Oh,
What was the
sorry.
housing? And then also I did read they kind of made a lot of promises off the bat. Like they said eradicate homelessness. Like there'll be zero
Yeah.
homeless people in 3 years.
Yeah, that's right. That's
That's
right.
tough.
There's
Ish.
some.
We're
some
gonna
big
put him in a
things.
boat and drive him to Oceania.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Send them out to the islands.
Send to the
think so.
Fijis.
Exactly. Well, eradicate homelessness was a big one. But it's kind of like, I don't know, like for me, it's like kind of like Captain Planet. Do you remember Captain Planet? His what was his aim? Captain Planet, he's our hero. He's going to take pollution down to zero. That was his thing. I feel like if he was like a minister or like governing or going for a politician's spot, it's quite a massive, it's a huge statement. And I don't think it's possible because it's like, how are you going to celebrate your win of getting pollution down to zero? Oh, we'll have a few beers. That's going to leave some rubbish. How are we going to get rid of that rubbish? Oh no, we're back to 1% pollution now, mate.
You got to under promise, over deliver, right?
That's it, right? Under promise, over deliver. And I think that's how, if you want to win, I feel, but then you can't win by doing that, right?
Yeah.
You can't win a country. You can't win the hopes and dreams of the nation by going, I'm going to give it a crack, guys. What will be will be.
We'll see what
Trust
happens.
me. Yeah, let's see what happens.
So
yeah.
another thing with her, if you don't, is that I found interesting doing the research is that she was put as the head of the party in 2017, 7 weeks before the election.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where did she come from?
Did she previously, did no one know who she was until 7 weeks earlier? Or had she been a figure in the whole country the whole time?
So so people knew of her. So she was always pretty pretty cool, and she was a DJ as well. Like, so she did some DJing.
Was she
I'm immediately not voting for
Was she
her.
the Jacinda who DJ'd on The Real World back in London?
Yeah. So in New Zealand,
Did she have albums out?
No, well, so in New Zealand, to get by, everyone has to have about 3 or 4 jobs. So even our Prime Minister had to have a little side hustle.
She's an Uber driver.
You know,
Expensive housing.
do some 21st.
Yeah.
Expensive housing. So it's important to, keep your toe in different
she's a
things. So when she was a member of parliament, she basically, she was called a DJ, but even she would say I was a tune selector. So she didn't actually basically, mix and DJ and do all that kind of stuff. She does what about 90% of DJs do. She pretends she's working
Right.
and then occasionally turns a knob here and there to pretend like she's the one kicking in the bass, as opposed to the pre-recorded track. But so people knew of her. She was, I think, maybe about 6th or 7th, maybe on the list of MPs in terms of heading up the list towards the leadership. There was a guy called Andrew Little who he was the guy that was under promising, over delivering. He's that guy. He was she'll be right, trust me, don't worry, I've got it. But everyone was like, well, we need a little bit of something going on. And then so she was polling. There was this poll that went out around New Zealand. It was like, who would be your preferred prime minister? And Andrew Little was like 7% of New Zealand wanted him, but like 40 or 50% said that Jacinda would be a great one. And so then they just made this snap re-election, like just before the election, let's just go and do it, let's try and get it done. And so they did it, and it worked because they got enough so they could do a coalition. But National did that this year. So Judith Collins, who is the current National leader, she's only been leader for 8 weeks.
Whoa.
Prior to this.
Was
They
she a
had
DJ
2.
before this as well?
She was not a DJ. Her nickname was Judith Crusher Collins. So
She's a wrestler?
She's a rapper, sounds like.
Yeah. She's
A wrestler,
that's
yeah.
her side hustle. She's in a tag team situation with Winston Peters.
The Bushwhackers?
The Bushwhackers, yeah. She was their manager. She was like, what was it? Jimmy the Mouth of the South or whatever.
Yeah.
She was that kind of girl. But so she came in. There was originally there's a guy called Simon Bridges who everyone was, they did like this in-house coup in their party, and then this guy called Todd Muller won the coup, and he said, like, I'm your leader now. And then he realized how hard the job was, and after 30 days he said, oh, actually it's quite hard, I'm going to step down. And he stepped down, and then they had no leader with 8 weeks to go, and they're like, okay, we'll put Judith Collins.
Were they like,
in.
we should have a woman because is that what they're trying to appeal to? Like,
Pretty much. I think it's a lot.
Why is she crushing?
I feel she was really hard on. I don't know if you guys have this problem in America, but in New Zealand we have this problem with boy races. So like cars, like teenagers and young 21, 22-year-old men who soup up their cars. And
oh my God!
This is
Wait.
Kaplan's
whoa.
neighborhood has this problem.
If he
He's
was-
running for local. He's
City
running for
council.
local government next year on this exact.
Not to plug
platform.
it again, but if you listen to our Patreon show, I've been ranting about this all summer. These racers
Right.
that are going around my neighborhood, boy racers.
Right,
Yeah.
boy
Let's start calling
racers.
them
So
that.
what do you call them? What do
They're
you call them in your neighborhood?
what's the word? Heads?
Oh,
Gas heads or something? What
drag
are,
racers,
yeah.
right? Or
There's like a-
gearheads.
Gearheads. Yeah.
gearheads.
Some-
Yeah, right. So we call them boy racers. Maybe not in this day and age. You know, there can be boy and girl races.
Right.
We're not
Yeah. What about,
discriminating
don't
here.
gender identify them.
yeah, exactly. Well, that's right.
Are they
That's true.
trans?
So
They could be trans racers. Yeah.
they could be Trans Ams
Yeah.
as
Yes.
well. So we're not discluding anyone here. But
So what'd she
her
do to
big
him?
her
Yeah.
big policy was that if anyone was caught sort of racing or being a boy, doing this kind of preceded boy racing or unsociable driving around your local neighborhoods, she gave the police the ability to repossess their cars and then crush their cars in front of them.
In front of them?
In
Oh
front
my
of them.
God.
That was part of their.
How do I donate to her campaign?
Wait,
Mate,
Kaplan.
you're 2 days too late.
I'm writing her in for president of the United States.
Kaplan, I have bad news though. She lost miserably.
Oh,
Yeah.
This
it
is
was
bad news for your
she-
campaign next year.
Yeah. Ironically, she got crushed.
I need to be
And-
known as
and
Kaplan the Crusher. I need to go
Kaplan the
around
Crusher.
crushing cars
Yeah.
because they do like wheelies. They do they're driving around like
Yeah.
maniacs. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I feel these people's pain.
Yeah, so that's where she got the nickname Judith Crusher Collins, because that was her policy she brought in, and
What was
Yeah,
her
that was the
job
big
that she had the authorization to crush these cars?
so she was
Vigilante.
I think she was like the minister of like cars, no transport. I think maybe there was something. She was a minister of something for that. It might have been corrections actually. Yeah, it might have been something in that she could actually just manipulate the rules a little bit to stop antisocial behavior and that kind of jazz.
Crusher.
So, okay, so let's see. So then she won like 3 days ago. She went,
That's-
here. So I want to move ahead to this. So the Christchurch thing happened maybe 2 years ago, right?
Yes.
This is about 2 years
Yeah.
ago.
Oh, which
Okay.
Christchurch thing happened?
Yeah.
There's a lot of Christchurch things. Yeah.
There's a shooting.
So there was the earthquakes and then there was the mass shootings. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
I'm talking the shooting, the mass shooting.
shootings. Okay. Yep.
So she did something which we couldn't do in America. She outlawed
Yeah.
semi-automatic weapons, right?
Yeah.
And was this this seemed like a big win
Yeah.
for her? I mean, obviously it was a necessary thing to do, but also a big win. This is when she hit the international stage, I think.
this is
for
when she
real.
attracted the attention
Right.
of the American, who wants to move.
Yeah.
Now, when she did that, did that have to pass through Parliament and
Yeah.
House and whatever every branch of government you have, or is that a one-off?
Yeah.
She writes a legislation.
No. So that was you'd have to.
I'm talking about
yeah,
Jacinda here. Sorry.
Yeah, Jacinda. So she'd have to. So any kind of bill or movement or anything like that she has to sort of put it through, and that's why if you've got a majority, like this is why it's such a interesting thing that they won by such a landslide, because now they've got such a majority of people in the House, they can get a lot of things moved through quicker. Whereas, so this, I think they passed that in like maybe 8 days or something like that. I want to say like within 2 weeks for sure. But it was a resounding support. There was only, I think it was like sort of 81, 82% people voted for the change of the laws, and there was about a very, very handful of people that were against it. It was pretty quick. So that was a pretty unanimous thing, and that's where like watching the American debates and watching the UK and watching everywhere around the world, actually, it's actually, as much as we sort of laugh and joke and complain about certain bits and pieces of New Zealand politics, it's very, very tame in comparison to everybody else. Everyone is pretty much like, I'd say 70% of the time they're on the same page, and it's just those extreme different things that that's dividing them. But yeah,
because
But
we
here,
don't have And I was going to say, sorry, we don't have a parliament, but if our version of New Zealand first, American first, whatever you want to call it, those people would never support getting rid of any sort of guns.
Never.
Yeah, in a million years. So like the fact that they went along with this, they stayed in the government.
So here's the thing. So New Zealand first, I don't know how they voted, but so bear in mind there was about sort of 19% of people who voted against it. So the way that the MMP situation works, so they would only get a proportion of, so even though they are in Parliament, they only get like 5% of the actual seats. So, out of 120, I guess it's like 7 or 8 seats or something like that.
Yeah.
And so they only have that many votes.
Right.
So yes, they would have voted
it.
against it. But I feel because there were so many people on the national side who also had like big amount of seats, they were like, yeah, let's just get this done. Yeah. And there was a lot of tinkering and a lot of pushback against it from like hunters and people who, because farming's a big deal in New Zealand. So there was a lot of like, hey, let's get this law right. But there was a big like, yeah, of course. Why do you need semi-automatics to, put down a cow?
Yeah, they didn't ban all guns, right? Just semi-automatic guns.
Yeah, just like stuff that, you can...
So you're not going to shoot 100 cows.
Exactly, of course, yeah. Mass cows occurs.
And then they did... So wait, so is this party... So because the parliamentary system fascinates me, that you have to make these concessions, you have to group together with other people, and then you go forward. And then from what I can tell, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but when she went forward, when Jacinda Ardern's party went forward, she kind of didn't do anything that the New Zealand First Party wanted her to do. Is that right or not?
What, and with regards to
meaning
just anything or like?
Well, I guess this gun thing, or it seems like once she got once she got in office, she kind of went, yeah, sorry guys, I'm not really doing what you want.
Yeah, but the guy got to be in charge of horse racing, so he was cool.
Oh yeah, that's right.
He just put bets on things.
Is that normal? That once you form the coalition, the party in power is just like, yeah, whatever, to the other people in the coalition?
No, not at all. So there was a couple of things I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. There was something just recently, Winston Peters, he voted for, but he was like it was almost like an agree to disagree type situation. And I think it was the Trans-Tasman bubble. So there's so New Zealand and Australia, because we've got 0 cases in Australia, or some parts of Australia like New South Wales and Queensland and Tasmania and stuff, they don't have any. Fiji, Cook Islands, a lot of the islands, they don't have any corona. So we're thinking of this Trans-Tasman bubble type thing. And I think Winston Peters voted for it. So he wanted to like, hey, let's get like, because a big part of our money in is tourism. And so we've got nothing going on because we've all seen our country. So we don't, we've all bungee jumped. So we don't need to do it again. So a lot of those industries are missing out. So she voted for putting back the Trans-Tasman bubble or postponing it. And so there's a lot of, that's a bad example because he didn't get what he wanted, but there's a few examples where he would push back on stuff and it just wouldn't go through because of whatever reason. And there was a lot of that, to be honest. There was a lot of stuff that they wanted to do that that the other parties
was it like a tax increase or something that he stopped?
So basically, this is how I see like New Zealand's government, and it's all cyclical. So National will not spend any money and there'll be heaps of money in the pot, but then they'll just the corporates and the people who are already doing well will keep doing well. But then when Labor get involved, they're like, oh, we've got all this money. Let's help out the young, the disenfranchised and the people who are struggling. Let's give them chances by giving out money, wage subsidies, all that kind of stuff to those people. And so how you do that, that's why they call it tax incentive, because they to pay for our infrastructure around different parts of New Zealand, they up the petrol tax. And so some parts of New Zealand, you're paying 20 cents more than the other parts of the country, just so that we can pay for our different roads and bridges and all that kind of stuff. So that's why they call it tax incentive. Yeah,
that's all right. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever.
People
have to pay taxes, right?
We don't care about a pot of money. We're not like, oh, look, there's money there. We're just like, we got a bigger debt. We can pay for more stuff. So.
I know it's like taxes happen.
Yeah,
what about,
that's
so
right.
when they bought back, so that they did a gun buyback.
That's a great T-shirt, by the way. That's a great T-shirt.
Taxes happen. Get over it. Right? What do you think? Everything's free? Like somebody has to pay for stuff. And I'm pretty down the middle, but come on, at some point you got to pay taxes.
But yeah, they did a buyback to get the guns back, right? Is that?
Yeah. So the gun buyback, how did that work?
So that was good, but it wasn't as great as they anticipated. So the gun buyback happened, and there wasn't as many guns bought back as they thought there was.
So there's still guns out there then.
Yeah. So a lot of the gangs and stuff are still, roaming around with different things. But the difference is, obviously, if they get caught with them, they can, even just like having them in their car or whatever, it's a huge deal. So yes, they're still out there and around, but touch wood, there's been nothing.
Because no, I was going to say what in America what they always say is the only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun.
And now you got no good guys with guns because they bought them. They sold.
If they bought back all the semis, is it only has crime gone up? Like in all seriousness, or no?
I mean, I don't know the exact figures, but I would say no. Like it doesn't. Yeah, no. The gun it has worked. It honestly has worked, and the amount of there's just hardly any gun crime here anyway. But I feel like it's definitely worked. It's definitely because our cops they don't wear guns.
Well, really?
Like the bully things like the
Billy clubs?
Billy clubs, yeah.
No, so they've got tasers. We've got tasers.
Oh, nice.
So it's like the friendly gun.
Everybody loves it.
So you crush people's cars, but you never shoot them for breaking the law.
Yeah, that's right. So, but the thing is that they do have guns and they have access to them, and they get called out. So if it's like they get a radio over and go, we need to get John, go get the gun. We need the gun for this one.
Go to the safe and get the gun, the house gun.
Get the son. Yeah, exactly. Get the house gun. Yeah. And then they'll go out and do that. But in terms of like walking around, if you see just people on the beat or just on the street, they won't be. They've got no guns on them. So, but they have access to them and they can call them in. But yeah, that's the thing. So, but yeah, I think it definitely, honestly, it definitely works. And the things like school shootings and that kind of thing, that's just not even a. It's not even a thing
school
here.
down, so we solved it too. So we
got rid of school.
We just got rid of school, so we don't have school shootings either. So Trump solved that this year. But yeah.
Kids are going to start shooting their parents soon.
You got
the biggest thing that I have with that.
It's not worth it anymore.
Yeah, the biggest problem I have though with that whole the only person that can beat a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun is teaching is a very stressful job. And I feel like if they've got guns, the students coming back aren't going to be the ones doing the shooting up. It's the teachers that are stressed, underpaid.
They'll turn to bad guys.
Yeah. Oh, totally. They're going like, you're not listening to me now. What about now?
I would like that to get my kids to do their work.
I said conjugate the gerund.
Yeah. I think that's how, maybe that's a good way of teaching them. Maybe we've just come full circle and said, give the teachers guns so they can.
There are people who say that in the United States, by the way.
That's actually a thing. It's not even a joke. That's a real solution.
Wow.
To solve the gun shooting was to train the teachers on how to shoot guns.
But we don't, we don't even, we've talked about like in America, there's like 300 million assault weapons or something. So to go get them, if it's like you just have to start a war or you have to do what you guys do, but it has to be, you have to pay these people a lot of money in America to give up their guns. So I don't even know. What do they sell them for in a buyback? Is it
a buyback?
Is it more than like what it costs or?
We just exchange them for avocados. That's all we do.
Those are
which are very expensive.
Avocados are expensive, so that's a good deal. I would trade a gun for.
You guys import them or do you grow them?
Oh, we do a little bit of both.
Okay. What about? I have a left field question here. Mm-hmm. She's grew up Mormon, right? Jacinda, which that's just fascinating to me that American culture has spread all the way around the world. So there's Mormons in New Zealand, but then she grew up Mormon, but she left the Mormon church because of the stance, anti-gay stance and everything like that, which is consistent with the United States. Is she religious in any way? And does that matter in politics?
Oh, so she's agnostic. So
Whoa.
she was asked this in the recent debate, and they said, are you religious? And she says she's agnostic, and which is a very political answer.
That's a
But,
political way to say I'm an atheist, but sounds
yeah, totally right. Totally
Yeah,
right. It's hedging your bets, but purely for voting purposes.
But do you have
rather
enough
than-
people? Can in America, no one would know what agnostic meant.
Right. So agnostic here is basically you don't believe. So
It's
what
you
is
don't
that?
know. It's you're not sure.
You don't know. You're not assigned or aligned. We have a thing here for us is that we don't, and a lot of people here. So we don't worship. We don't worship Jesus, but we celebrate him. So it's
Like-
kind of like we get all the holidays, but we don't have to,
It's a real
give up our
loophole.
Sundays. It's a huge loophole.
Yeah.
But we're very appreciative of the work that he's done in the early
So am I.
2000s.
So is New Zealand and Kaplan?
Yeah.
Is New
Yeah,
Zealand in
so
general not religious?
we are. There's a lot.
Okay.
There's multicultural. There's a lot. Yeah. There's a different. I would say we're more Christian than any other religion, but yeah, I feel like it doesn't. Yeah, because I know that how if your president said, "Come on, guys, what are we all believing here?" Then he wouldn't, or they wouldn't get in. Is that safe to say, or no?
Yeah,
I mean,
no,
do
we
you
have a president who definitely has never prayed it in his life.
No, but he
would never
says he
have.
has.
Pretends he has. Yes, exactly.
Right.
Nick, let me give you the stats real quick. We've
Okay.
had if you're not a Protestant, you don't get it. We've had one Catholic, and look how that ended up.
Joe
Oh,
Biden's
wow.
about to be. Hopefully, Joe Biden's a Catholic. He
Our
can-
only Catholic
Yeah.
so far was Kennedy.
Yeah.
Really?
Ooh.
Oh,
Yeah.
really? And we all know what happened.
Warn,
there.
Turner's issuing a warning. It sounds like to Biden. I don't know.
No, I'm just saying, don't drive by any book depositories anytime. soon.
Yeah.
Don't go to Dallas.
Well, wow. So that's interesting. That's really interesting. So it's really so. Do you think there will ever become a time when it won't be a factor, or
No.
I guess it's dependent?
I don't know. Maybe we're
Mm.
definitely moving less. We're less religious than
Mm.
we used to be, but I don't know.
Well, I think that you can be. I bet you could be another religion, but I
Yeah.
bet you could probably be Jewish before you could be atheist.
Mm.
I get it.
Right, right.
I don't know about
yeah,
that.
it's a gateway to atheism.
That's what it is.
Kaplan.
It's a gateway to. I'm not sure.
No,
Maybe
yeah,
you
no,
could be gay before you could be either of these.
You
I
could
don't know.
definitely be gay first. Yeah. We'll have a gay president
Yeah.
before we have an atheist president.
Yes,
for sure.
Yeah, like Pete, Mayor Pete was
Yeah.
a very religious. We talk about going to church and stuff, but anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah.
I think so it's interesting that because she was Mormon, and so she would have had to like do a lot of. The Mormons, they're the ones that go door to door. Is that the one? Or
Oh,
is
that's
that
No.
Jehovah's Witness.
Those
Yeah.
are Jehovah's Witnesses.
Jehovah's
Mormons, I
Witness.
grew up with a lot of Mormons. They're just like they stick to in the old days they were polygamous, but that's long gone.
Right.
They're kind of just stick to themselves, but very they do not accept gays into the community for sure.
Right.
But you always hear about Mormons in America doing missions down in Australia and New Zealand and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, but those are to convert people missions,
right, so,
as
like-
opposed to like, I mean, I guess I think they do some charity stuff,
Right.
but-
I wonder if we converted their family.
Probably. I'd
Yeah.
imagine so. Yeah, for
Kinda.
sure. I feel like that's, there must be some people in that religion though that's kind of, there must be easier countries to go to, like, obviously New Zealand, the Cook Islands or something like that. Like,
Oh, I have
Who-
a friend.
who-
So let me just
has
say on the
anyone gone
record.
to Papua New Guinea or something?
Yeah, the Mormons I know are great people. Let me say that on the record. They're very
Great
nice people,
Great people.
as long as
Except
you're
for
not
Sean
gay.
Bradley. Except
you
for
know?
Sean Bradley.
But
Yeah.
no, you can go. Yeah, some people go to like an African desert to do the mission, and then my friend's little brother went to
Right.
Fort Lauderdale,
Right.
which is like a suburb of Miami, and he went
Right.
to do his mission there. So you can go
And so
anywhere.
is it pulled out of a hat, or like do they request to go to these places, or they just go?
No, it's pulled out of a hat, basically. Like
Is
they
it?
need people everywhere.
That's
And
in the Book
so
of Mormon. That's how it was, right?
they just send-
Yeah.
I don't know. I know real people. Forget
Yeah,
the Book of Mormon. I'm going off actual Mormons. They just
Yeah.
decide. They decide where you go, and you go there.
Yeah, interesting. How long for? What's the minimum?
You go for
Until-
2 years, usually when you're
2
19.
years.
And
So
usually
it's
it's just the men.
Right.
Yeah,
so
like-
it's 2 years, and it's convert as many people as you can.
Yeah.
Or right.
It's a
And
numbers
that
game,
is-
baby.
it's
You
a
got to hit your
numbers
number. It's like Glengarry
Targets.
Glen Ross. You got to hit your sales
game.
targets.
KPIs, that kind of thing.
Exactly.
Great. Nice. Okay. Oh, that's good. No, so I think she so she grew up there, and it hasn't really affected, or there's nothing, there's no pushback of the fact that she is not assigned to any specific religion.
Okay. So with this election, she's now won again, which means she gets 3 more years, right? It's 3 years per election. What are the things, because we were trying to find, like, in America, she's known as this perfect figure, but like we said earlier, no one knows much. They just know, like, oh, I like her, you know?
Coronavirus and,
But then, so we were digging, and it seems like there is some issues with the Maoris, right?
Yeah.
so they're the native people.
So Maori people are the native, so indigenous. So a little bit of history. So Kupe came across from Hawaii, I think it was, in 1600, and then we made Lord of the Rings.
And that's New Zealand. Good night, everybody.
And that's all. It took us ages, and here we are today.
But
but yeah, so the Maori is the indigenous. So I'm part Maori. I'm 1/8 Maori. So my great grandma.
Did you know that, or is it a DNA test?
No. So part of my it's my family heritage and stuff. So my great grandmother Rangi Hohepa married a guy called Nicholas Radovanovic from Croatia. They couldn't speak the same language, so they had 10 children, and that was the only thing that they were like, oh, all right, should we do this again?
Yeah, that's
true. That's what you're saying.
And then so there's a long line of so the biggest thing here is the Treaty of Waitangi. So the English obviously came and said, "Oh, this is a pretty good country. We want to do more here." And so they had these big wars, these land wars with the Maori people, and it was just no one was getting anywhere. So I don't know if you know this, a fun fact, but Maori people invented trench warfare. So they were the first ones that made trenches.
Nice.
And
Shout out.
they were,
Wait, that's a great blow. We like to give blowhard facts of the day for our listeners.
Okay.
To tell people at parties, when you're at a cocktail party, that's what you say.
I don't know if you know this. But...
I don't know if you know this. It's a great way to blow hard. But
here's the better way to do it. I'm sure you are aware.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're aware.
Yeah.
We
As
all
you
know
all
who
know.
invented trench warfare, of course. Always.
not-
Then you sip
it's
your
not-
martini and you
Yeah.
yeah.
It's not a great like sort of impressing like someone on a date. That's not a very good date type fact to go to talk about trench warfare. Depends who you're dating. Yeah, right. This is how. Yeah. So basically they were did all this trench warfare. So basically a lot like Vietnam, where it was really they would be in one place, and then the armies would go, oh, they're over there now, we'll fight them over there, and then they'd sort of go through tunnels and go up through different trenches and stuff. So they just weren't getting anywhere. So they decided to sign this thing called the Treaty of Waitangi, which is a huge huge problem here, because what the English did, this is you don't want to say that the English were tricky or not very good people, but what they did is they did 2 versions of the treaty. So one was in Maori, where they said, and so the Maori people were like, oh yeah, this is what we're signing, we agree to this. So basically it was like, you get the use of our land, but in the English version of the contract, they said, we now own the land. And so then when they were like signed the treaty, and they said, oh, here, all your the chiefs and your leaders have signed it. This is us. So we actually own this land now. And then so then they just basically they just land grabbed a whole bunch of stuff. And so now it's kind of retrospectively trying to sort that out, because it's like, well, some people have been here for 2, 3, 4 generations who are English or European, and who have like made the land what it is, and then now Maori people going, but it's actually our land, so you have to give it back. But we've been here for 800 years, or 100 years. So it's a big it's so hard. And so I think I can't remember off the top of my head, but there was a particular protest at the moment, and Jacinda didn't go down and speak to them about it, and it was this huge deal where it's like, just go down and do your thing, and so she is very, very, very much for doing a lot of stuff for Māori and Indigenous people, but that particular protest, which the name escapes from me just at this point in time, she got a lot of flack for. So
that sounds like a tough, political move to be like, hey, everybody,
right?
You're going to have to leave your house.
Totally.
We found out this was other land 800 years ago.
I think now I kind of remember. So Fletcher Building is like this building construction site. So they bought the land. So they bought the land for, fairly and invested all this money into the land, and they bought it off this old European family. But then the local Māori tribe said, actually, this is a great chance for us to squatters' rights, get back our land back. Yeah. And so they formed like this big sort of chain around the land. And then Fletcher was like, well, we've paid a lot of money and it's ours. And then the Māori people are like, well, it's not yours, it's ours. And so it's just like, what can you do in that situation?
Send in the crusher.
Send in the crusher. The crusher comes
Knock it
in.
down.
The crusher comes in.
We were reading. You guys, did you have a referendum on the election you said, where they want to rename the country Lands of the Long White Cloud?
Yes.
How did you vote on that?
Well, so we've had four really. So I think was it 3 or 4 or 5 years ago? I can't remember. Anyway, we spent $27 million on asking the people of New Zealand if they wanted to change our flag from the one behind me, which has got the English Union Jack and then the Southern Cross stars. So these are the
It's
stars.
very confusing. It's too similar to Australia.
That's mate. So Australia's got different kind of stars, and there's a couple extra ones over here, I think, or something to represent the states, I think, as well as the Southern Cross. But this is just the Southern Cross, New Zealand, and then the Union Jack. It's so
I'd
confusing.
update. I could update for 26 mil.
Yeah, totally.
You can do something in Photoshop tonight.
So if you want to see something really funny, is what they did. This is so Kiwi. They said to the people in New Zealand, "What would you like the flag to look like?" So they accepted designs from New Zealanders. Just anyone. They didn't have to be designers. They could just be. Just if you can draw within the
send us mail
spectrum of a flag, PO box, send it in, and they put up all the different ones, and you could vote for the different ones that you liked. And the one that was really getting a lot of traction was this thing called Laser Kiwi, and it was a kiwi with lasers shooting out its eyes.
The fruit, a kiwi fruit.
Was this like an 8-year-old design?
Kiwi bird.
Bird. Oh, the bird. Yeah.
Kiwi bird with a big beak, and it was shooting lasers out of its eyes and
awesome.
destroying whatever path was any obstacles in its path type thing. And we called it Laser Kiwi, and it was there's a lot. If you go to a lot of sporting games now, you'll see the Laser Kiwi flag being flown very proudly.
Oh, it's like popular.
But 27 million, and we decided to keep the old one.
There's no laser. You should have just added a laser to what you have. Like shooting Australia or something. There you go.
Shooting Australia.
Yeah, exactly. Just shooting off to wherever Australia is pointing. So the question was, so Aotearoa. So we haven't actually had that referendum yet, but they've been asking the question, should we? I mean, for me personally, it's like we call ourselves Aotearoa, which is Māori for Land of the Long White Cloud, but it's kind of like, I don't know, it's like Germany doesn't make everyone say their name's Deutschland. Like, I feel like that's just, or like France. In France, we're Nouveau Zealand or whatever. I
mean, China is Zhongguo in China.
Exactly. You're right. Yeah. That's how you say it. And So how do you say it? Zhongguo.
Zhongguo. Yeah.
Zhongguo.
Yeah,
I'm probably saying that probably bad.
That's
but
close.
It's close. But so that's what I'm saying. It's like, yes, you definitely keep that. Keep that, but it doesn't.
Americans will never know how to say this new name. So
we already don't. You already leave us off maps, so it's kind of. I feel like you just leave it off just because you couldn't spell.
We waited to do this podcast till she won again. Let's just say
that. Yeah, that's right. But the big referendums that we're voting for in the moment is legalizing cannabis and euthanasia. Those are the two that we voted for.
I like
on the
both of
weekend.
those.
You can vote
by the
for
way. You should be
euthanasia.
able to kill yourself in any free
You should
country.
be able to, yeah, exactly. Like, have a
Bone
a
Crusher
pot
should do
brownie,
it.
And you
pot
should
brownie.
take some pot. Yeah, exactly.
Yep, kill your nan.
So what
those
about-
two things should be able to do?
It seems like the coronavirus response went
Mm.
swimmingly. Everybody's happy, except also the economy went down like 12.5%.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
was but she won re-election. So it seems like people that the response to COVID outweighed closing down for 6 weeks, whatever it was, outweighed the economy dip for the next term. Now that she doesn't have to deal with the New Zealand First people. She doesn't have to deal with anybody. She has, it's her party. Plus she has the parliament, right? The parliament's her party.
Yeah.
So she has a clear shot. What do you see her doing or attempting?
So the big things that she needs to work on are the big things that people will judge her on is exactly the things that National, which is the opposition party, said that they would do better, which is get the economy boost and stimulate the economy. But the problem with that is they were going to do it irresponsibly. So they were going to take money from the COVID fund that they'd saved in case there was another wave, so that because if there's another wave and we need to go into lockdown, they've got money in the bank to give us all wage subsidies.
Unbelievable. So responsible.
Yeah, really
Money in the
responsible.
bank?
Money in
Wow.
the bank to go, okay, we've got, I think they've got 14 billion or so. I can't remember that. That's the name that's sort of been bandying around, but that's enough that I think if the whole country went into lockdown again, we could all get wage subsidies for, another 3 or 4 weeks and keep small businesses afloat, keep,
Wow.
keep people just, keep people taking over. But National, we're going to stimulate the economy by putting that money back in, by creating jobs like road working jobs and, all these kind of stuff, by using that money to stimulate. And it's like, yes, that's cool if Corona was like, oh, that's a thing of the past now, but it's not. It's a real thing that could come back. So the big thing that Labour or Jacinda has to do very well is somehow keep safe, keep us still, kind of Corona free, but also somehow get people spending, get jobs back up. But the big thing she has to worry about is the housing. The housing is like everything's literally, for the lack of a better term, is through the roof in terms of house prices. And it's just, that's the big thing that she's going to be judged on.
Why are your houses so? Is just not enough building?
So if you can imagine, so we have a team of 5 million, but not all 5 million lived in New Zealand. New Zealanders have this big thing here where we do our OE, our overseas experience. So at 21, you go
Gap year.
you buy a house, or you settle down with your high school sweetheart, or you go traveling and you do what
options.
we call it OE, because we're so far away from everyone. It's like, well, we've got to go see the world. And so we do that. So a lot of New Zealanders were out and overseas, but now obviously they've all come back. And so everyone's come back. And so there's a lack of, there's not many houses here. There's enough houses here, but there's not enough for demand. So all the house prices going up. But then here's the other thing: they can't build new houses because of the Maori land situation that's going on. They can't release the land because it's very problematic, because you can't have like the Fletcher building situation. As soon as you release land, then there's different things going on. So it's a real tightrope of, yes, we want to build and we want to build quickly, but it's
you better start building, because Americans, if Trump gets reelected, all these Americans are moving to New Zealand, and they have a lot of money. They're going to spend money. It's going to keep prices high. You got to get building.
Well, that's it. And apparently, moving to, I think it was like living in New Zealand or moving to New Zealand was the top Google search or something like that.
I mean, it sounds great.
Debate.
You haven't
Everyone realized
everything sounds great there.
Everyone first, somehow in the last 4 years, people have realized that all of Canada is above Detroit. It's too cold. Wait, the whole country is north of Detroit. It's freezing, and they're like, I can't.
So what I would say though is that yes, we do have very good summers here, but winters are really cold. Like we are.
There you go.
Because if you say that Canada's above Detroit, you got to realize that New Zealand is above Antarctica. So there's nothing between New Zealand and Antarctica. So when a southerly wind comes through and there's a lot of valleys and mountains and stuff, Wellington, for example, that is like a wind tunnel of Antarctic wind just ripping through there. So it's very cold.
We need some. We need more. What else? What else is bad about New Zealand? We need to tell.
What else?
I want to
Yeah, so
be able to
let's
tell
take it
people
down a
at
bit.
cocktail parties, take it down a notch when they say they're moving
Yeah.
there. I want to be
Yeah.
like, do they have issues with the police or any of our
Yeah.
issues?
Well,
or
there's one thing I've learned
minorities?
is none of these people actually ever leave.
Yeah, that's true.
No.
It's a big,
Yeah,
it's a big
like-
thing to say.
Yeah, I think what's the worst thing about us is that we're very laid back and easygoing. I know that's good.
That's a bad
thing. We are.
Are comedy
mate,
clubs open?
Yeah. So yeah.
Oh my God.
That's a
so
bad
we've
thing.
only-
I might move.
So, come over, mate. Come over. I run a pop-up comedy venture called Laugh Club New Zealand. You can check us out, Facebook and Instagram and all that kind of stuff. And we basically do pop-up shows all around the country. And we've just recently done a rural tour, going around to all the farmers in all small town New Zealand. So we went down to a place the other day, had a population of 500 people, and 200 of them turned out.
Amazing.
And so they've been doing it all really tough because of the drought. There's some droughts and stuff going on here as well, and also the coronavirus and stuff. So we just did all these gigs, but we just going on tour. But because there's no international acts coming, there's nothing to do here. So everyone's just
but you're the best male comedian in New Zealand. So
mate, come on,
you're headlining
why wouldn't
everywhere.
you?
This is
Why
actually
wouldn't
huge
you?
for you. Yeah,
That's right.
Keep
Yeah,
the
that's
competition out. New Zealand
right.
first.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But yeah, we've only got one full-time comedy club, and that's the Classic, and that's in Auckland. But there's loads of like rooms, so I don't know what the same thing for you guys.
We have that in New York. We have just I run a bar show. We call it bar shows.
Bar shows, right?
You take the back room at a bar or something like that.
Yeah,
once a week,
yeah.
and you run a show.
Yeah, so there's heaps of that. Like, there's so many there. Like, you can gig every night of the week here in Auckland, and then outside of in other places as well, you can gig loads. And yeah, it's a really good scene, and yeah, it's great. It's good.
That's awesome.
Sorry to say that, guys, because when was the last time you gigged?
I mean, I did a show last night on a rooftop.
He did an outdoor show. Yeah.
Outdoor shows.
Outdoor shows.
But they're still few and far between. You know, I used to do probably 10 to 15 shows a week. And now I do one would be good. One live show a week.
Plus he does a couple Zoom shows.
And then I do a Zoom show every Friday. I do Zoom shows sometimes. Every Friday I do a show on Zoom. And then I'm just waiting. You know, the book, there's clubs. A couple clubs are running shows in New York. But one of them's in Stand-Up New York is in parks around New York City.
Right.
And then New York Comedy Club has like 3 rooftops that they're running. And so...
stuff.
But those are the only 2. I think the Stand might be doing something, but I don't work there. But those are the only 2 doing anything. And like all bar shows are gone.
Wow.
So
there's no bars right now. So
there's obviously no bars. So yeah, it's been from like literally down from
Mate.
15 a week to 1 a week.
So how are you guys surviving? Like, do you guys get wage subsidy? What's in New York? What is New York people? What do
We
you
get a
in New
little
York?
bit. I mean, I'm lucky. I put out my album last year. It gets played on the radio a lot.
Oh,
so
cool.
that you make a good amount of money on the radio.
Amazing. It's so good.
It's not
They
bad.
just keep it on loop. Is it just
There's
like,
comedy stations now on. Have you ever heard of Sirius XM radio? It's satellite radio.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, so they just
He's not-
play that and
So there's like 7 comedy channels now. One's clean comedy. One's like Kevin Hart has a channel.
Right.
Larry the Cable Guy has a channel. All the like Jeff Foxworthy. All these different styles of comedians have their own channel, and then comedians they like they'll put on their channel. And if you get played, it's good. It's like every time you get played, it's like it's 20, 25 bucks
amazing.
to get
Just
played.
do that. Just do that instead of gigging.
Well, if you can, what it's created is this crazy world where you don't have to be on Netflix to have a career in comedy. You know, you can make a living by putting out your own albums, audio only. And then if it gets on the radio, you're good. You know, I mean, you're not good. You still need to tour and everything, but it's a baseline of income that you then can you can build a middle-class human American career on comedy without ever being famous. Now,
amazing.
It's only in like the last 5 years.
Wow.
But yeah, that helps. And then, you know, doing the Zoom shows, I run my own Zoom show and whatever. You try to piece it together.
And this podcast is the #1 podcast in Armenia, so we're making a lot of money.
So pretty soon, the Armenian sponsors are banging down our door.
We have to look into some Armenian. My wife was already looking up the Armenian malls because we might move there since we're so big. So
yeah, right.
we're gonna have to find some sponsors for next week.
You need some merch for the show, just very
Yeah.
quickly. Number one in Armenia, sure.
Number one in Armenia.
Oh, you're right. We never even thought of that.
You gotta have
It's only
some
been
merch.
Cut now.
We've only been number one for 4 days, but
Yeah, well,
mate.
I've been out partying
listen.
the whole time. I haven't had a chance.
I've only been yeah.
You always party. Your first number one. I destroyed a hotel room. I rented out a hotel just to smash the room.
Kaplan's celebrating like he just won the NBA Finals.
Yeah, no, I'm like a band. When a band
Like
goes
a
to number one,
parade.
Yeah.
I threw a lamp out the window just for the hell of it. This hotel.
But like the NBA Finals, you have to give the number one in Azerbaijan T-shirts to some country in Africa.
We're last
Exactly.
place in Azerbaijan.
Last place in Azerbaijan hats. Yeah, go
Most
to Africa.
hated.
Most hated in Azerbaijan. That's another shirt right there.
That's another. Wait, you're merching it up.
Public enemies of Azerbaijan.
Just see like little African kids wearing Azerbaijan t-shirts. Wait, I have to ask. On that note, I have to ask
Yeah.
one more tough question because people say we don't ask
Okay.
the tough questions.
Oh, there's
Okay.
Azerbaijanis
Right.
say this.
Oh,
Yes.
gosh.
This is for
Yes.
them.
So the 30%, I read the shocking number was that it was 28% or 30% of kids, the Maori kids are living below the poverty line. Is that true?
Right, Maori kids. Yes. So it's a big, huge. Yeah.
And is that on
it's-
her? Is that her responsibility?
100%.
Yeah, 100%. That's her. That's she.
Get some headlines here.
She steals sandwiches from kids. I don't know if you have heard that as a line that's been. They don't put that in the New York Times. No, I feel So basically, it's an interesting situation. So yeah, there's many rural parts of New Zealand which are very sort of cut off, and so for example, where my ancestors are from, there's a place called Okaiho and Kaikoui, which they used to be really great thriving industries of kauri gum digging. So they used to do like a lot of the Maori and Croatian workers would go there and they would just make loads of money, literally cutting down kauri trees and making gum out of them. And then what happened is the governments, they took away the infrastructure. So they took away the trains no longer went up there for passenger trains, for example. They just used it for work, and then they stopped the working, and then they stopped kauri gum digging. But and then what was like really affluent towns now are just like boarded up. There's only a school and something else there, but they all live there, but there's no jobs in the area. And so it's really hard for them to get out of that town because, do you sacrifice a house? You can live there and it's cheap, but there's no, what is cheap when you don't have money coming in?
Yeah.
And so that's the big problem, is a lot of the kids are going through there. So a lot of kids also aren't going to school with lunches and that kind of thing. And so there's lots of programs that are helping out with that, but a lot of it is it's a fine line between just giving people extra money so that they've got money for their kids. So you have to give it to the adults, right? But then the adults spend it on, drugs or alcohol or whatever, or debt, or, it's not even necessarily bad things. It can just be like trying to get out of debt, petrol, second job, taxes. There's just a never ending loop of, whatever.
The horse races. Horses.
The horse races. You got a bad bet from the the deputy prime minister.
Yeah,
got a
give you
bad tip off. your car's been crushed by Crusher Collins.
Yeah.
It's things are bad. Things are hard. But yeah, so it's a really, that's something that everyone is definitely working on towards. So for example, my kid's school. Bo, he's just going to the school at Ariwa Beach down the road, and he there's some kids there that don't have any lunches or anything like that, and so what they do is they try and discreetly give them lunch, and so they have to go off to the office and and they get these bread rolls and just sandwiches and that kind of thing. But the problem is that my kids think that they're really awesome and that they're really almost privileged in a way, because they get to A, leave the classroom, and B, whenever they come back with these awesome meals. And so in their eyes, they're going, they're killing it. They're doing better than us.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's lots of different programs and stuff going on. But yeah, it's a huge problem. but I feel like it's something that everyone's, it should be easy enough to fix. I think that the next 3 years they'll roll out heaps of things that will help it. But
It's just always been a problem.
who knows?
Yeah.
It has always been a problem. I would say, yeah, I'd say, because do you in your schools, when you guys used to have schools, did you guys have like school lunches? Was
Yes.
that like a?
But
We feed
it's
the
like
kids. We still do. We still have lunch in school.
do all the kids take it, or is it Kaplan?
Well, in New York City, where I live, they made it free for everybody. So for what you're saying, they give
Wow.
everybody free, so no one feel that shame you feel. You're saying they feel
Yeah.
special, but they said that people feel shame if they don't have to pay and other kids pay.
Oh, the kids who are receiving it don't feel special, but
Yeah.
but because
Yeah,
they're only like 5 and 6. But when they get into 8, 9, 10, and they realize, oh, it's because they haven't got any
I
money.
mean, here they
that's
even
when
have
it gets problematic.
they have too many lunches. They booked them for like the amount of people they normally get because they're always offering.
yeah,
I walk
right.
by and they offer them to me because they look.
Yeah.
They're like, "Do you want a free
Yeah.
meal?" And they're like offering the school lunches now to regular people. But yeah, it's not fancy or anything. But they do give to
Yeah. Well, now it's I guess it's the opposite statistic for you guys is that 30% of comedians are below the poverty line. It's
No,
gonna say they're probably giving
well,
those lunches to you.
Turner,
Going,
I got
"Come on."
free lunches at my school next to my
Yeah,
building.
I'll tell you this. Now that comedians qualify for unemployment, we're making more money than ever. By the way,
Oh mate, yeah,
Well, that's
you
the
guys
thing.
are
In
pro
America,
comics.
they were giving. Yeah, to answer your question earlier, we were giving out. They were giving us wage assistance too, basically unemployment extra. But they kind of stopped
That's
doing that a
kinda
while
done.
ago.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
so
done right.
But
yeah.
for a while-
a lot of comedians were making more than they normally made, for sure.
for a little while.
Yeah.
For a few months.
Honestly, with the wage subsidy, like for me personally, I lost a lot. So is this a funny story? I'll tell the story anyway. So basically, I got a job. I got a gig. On Australian television, I got to do a comedy sports show, and it was a 2-year deal, and I was about to move my whole family over to Australia. So we packed up all of our house, 4-bedroom house, put it in a container, shipped all of our stuff over to Australia, and then when that was in the middle of the ocean, Corona happened.
Oh my
Yeah.
god,
That's funny.
And so I was over there. The kids and my wife were saying goodbye to their grandparents in New Zealand, and then we had to make this call because they're closing down the borders. I was like, I'll just come back. We'll be back here for 3 or 4 months, and then we'll go back over it. Fast forward to 7 months later. We've just decided to bring our stuff back. It cost us 20,000 New Zealand dollars to basically send our
Stuff back and forth.
furniture on holiday.
oh my gosh.
So what have you been living with? You haven't had furniture for this whole time? You just been
We've
like
just
an
been
empty
like
house?
this. It's like I guess the equivalent is Craigslist. I guess Trade Me is
Yeah.
the big
Yeah.
website here, so you can go around and you can go to different houses and go, "Oh, we're selling this couch for $20."
But
or,
during a
whatever.
pandemic, that's not ideal.
Mate, it's real. It was so I had like 2 weeks just to try and fill the place with comfortable things, but not spend heaps because we already had a 4-bedroom house in the ocean.
Oh my god.
So it was a weird time. But long story short, it's good here because now I can work in New Zealand. So it's actually even though I say, yeah, I've lost that money, but now because we can go and tour and do our things and get and basically work. And we're in New Zealand, we're living like there's nothing. The only thing that's not here is tourists. That's the only thing. We can't go away from here. That's the only.
Yeah.
That life is just normal here. It's that's the only thing.
You don't have to wear masks or any of that stuff anymore. People
No,
just
no
go outside.
masks, no social distancing. We just had the All Blacks play Australia in Eden
That's
Park. There's
that's a
40,000
rugby, right?
people. That's the rugby.
Yeah,
Yep. Yeah. You have to preface
to
that.
clarify
you
that
can't
for the
say- just
Americans,
to
yeah.
clarify that before anyone jumps down.
Oh yeah. for the
Yeah,
Americans.
that's the name of our national rugby team is the All Blacks. We're
You
not
hear that,
being-
liberals?
That's a
and we're
reason
okay
they won't
with it.
come now. Actually,
Now they won't come.
Yeah, that's one bad thing. So we just had 40,000 people just watch the game. And,
Oh, wow.
it was So it was
Well, they do
Yeah.
that in Florida. They don't.
Yeah, we had
care.
90,000 in Georgia last week, so we're better. We're doing a better job, clearly.
because there's some states just not just going
They
shrug
don't
their
give a
shoulders.
shit. It's
Pretty
state
much.
by
Some
state.
states, they wear in these states, they still have to wear masks where they have to wear them, but other than that, they go about their lives normal. Like,
Really?
Yeah.
And are they seeing like good results from that? Or
No.
is it-
No.
No, they're not.
They're not going to let the virus stop them, though, and that's the important part.
Yeah, they're just
They're
sort of
killing
like
all their
numb to it,
grandmas,
or
but
they
they're not
stop-
going to let the virus stop them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
They're bored. It's a new. They like moved on to another story. That was like
They go,
you know,
that's the whole thing. They go, we have to move on with our lives.
Yeah.
That's the argument.
Yeah.
Without
Yeah,
saying
right.
that, yeah, but the virus hasn't left, you know?
Yeah,
it's actually gotten
wow.
worse.
It's actually getting worse and worse every day, but
Yeah.
Well, if we go by what happened 100 years ago with the Spanish flu, which started in America apparently.
no,
did you know
no,
that?
fake news.
I
Fake
disagree.
News. Disagree. I
Disagree.
didn't. Fake news.
This was before trench warfare.
It started in Mexico.
World War One.
That's why it's called Spanish.
That's why it's called Spanish. And so it's 2 years, I reckon. 2 years is this is going to be a thing, and then it'll be all good.
Then
But,
everyone will have had it. Yeah.
well, then everyone will be like Florida. We'll just go, well, that's enough. 2 years is enough. We're just going
Yeah.
to get back into
They
it.
better keep playing me on the radio. You hear that, Sirius XM?
Yeah.
I need one more year out of you.
Anyway.
So,
Oh my gosh.
very quickly, can I ask you a question then?
Yes.
What do you think is going to happen in New York? Like so this is what we've been hearing in New Zealand is that New York, everyone's moving out. New York's dead. It's died, and everyone is.
You guys get the New York Post there?
Who, James Altucher, who's telling you this?
Yeah, so we're getting fed that it's like it's all doom and gloom. That's like tumbleweeds. Weirdly, the subways still smell like urine, but it's, no one's in
that's
them
true.
and that kind of thing. But it's, so what is your thoughts? What do you think's going to happen? What do you think is when do you think it'll be back to normal? And what's your thoughts?
What, do you want to go first or you want me to, Kaplan?
Well, we can go back and forth, I guess. I would say it's not tumbleweeds. There's
Right.
It's not tumbleweeds, but
people
it's
eating
not
sushi
great.
and bike lanes, as they like to joke, right? I mean, there's a lot of outdoor people are enjoying the outdoors. A lot of people have come back.
Yeah.
But a lot of people have left too. A lot of people moved to the suburbs, people with families, or just haven't, or rich people are in their vacation home still and haven't come back. They're waiting.
Yeah.
Here's an issue is, as Kaplan says, I bike around the city because I'm not taking any subways or anything. So if I have to go to spots, I'll bike like 3 miles to this place, go do comedy, bike the next 3 miles, go to another place. So when you bike through, it's in certain neighborhoods, it feels like New York's never been more alive.
Yeah.
Right.
Especially when the weather's nice.
Yeah,
Right.
because the bars are not open indoors, but they're open 25% now. But really, they're open outdoors.
Yeah.
So the streets, it feels like Europe. Like you're biking through these like little
Right.
one-way
They
streets.
created these like new plazas almost in the streets of like outdoor dining and so it's a lot of,
As Kaplan likes to say, like in every town in Europe, there's a water fountain in the middle, and just high school kids all day and all night are drinking on the steps of it.
Yeah.
That's what New York City feels like now in certain
Yeah.
neighborhoods. But then you'll bike
Okay.
5 more neighborhoods or 5 more minutes, and it doesn't feel dangerous, but it just feels abandoned. Where it used to
Right.
be kind of like stuff going on. But then you go 5 more minutes past that, and you're back to one of those hot neighborhoods again.
Yeah.
So
We
it just kind
definitely
of
have-
feels like what a lot of cities in America have always felt like that, though. That's what San
Yeah.
Francisco's always felt like. So it just doesn't feel like it was in top form 6 months ago. The whole city was on fire, everything.
Wow,
it was
right.
fun. Like everything was blown up throughout the thing. It's not at the peak anymore, but I don't
Right.
think it's back to like 1991 where everyone's just shooting each other.
or
in the street.
1970s. Well, what it is that
70s, yeah.
Turner lives in Brooklyn. I live in Queens. These areas are residential, and in some areas, Manhattan is the one where it's like based on businesses where it's like dead in certain areas.
No, but I bike through Manhattan. That's what I was talking about.
Oh, that's what you meant. Okay, to clarify. This Midtown Manhattan, like all the tourist areas you would go to are just like mostly abandoned because no one lives there and there's no business.
I think
They've
the
been
idea
found
of,
out for what they are a little bit, like just the tourists go there.
Yeah, and it's
go,
so
"Actually,
expensive, and everyone realizes they
yeah.
can work on Zoom, and like, why do I need to go into the city? And
I would say just like there's no tourists, right?
Yeah.
So
exactly. We
anything-
need tourists even just as
Broadway shut down. So anything where the tourist would be is gone, is non-existent. But the idea that everyone's like it's super dangerous and there's murder all over the place, it's just not. It is higher than it was. I think it's double what it was last year.
I mean, someone got murdered right outside my apartment.
That's true. Over a parking spot.
Parking spot.
Really?
That wasn't good.
Wow.
So that's why I said we need the crusher in my neighborhood.
Yeah, right.
But
That's
other
right.
areas seem to be okay. Turner's area seems to be doing better.
My neighborhood's
Yeah.
totally fine. So I think it's nowhere close to what everyone's like. It's back to the 70s. That's not true at all.
No,
But it's also not.
I thought you were going to say, Turner, your neighborhood's totally fine now that you got rid of that guy who stole your car parking spot.
Yeah.
I was like, It's like, oh,
He got what he
we got
deserved.
you on the night of.
You got to shoot a couple rule violators.
yeah. But then everything's fine around where I live.
And then you're okay.
We could use a gun buyback program in New York, but anyway.
Yeah, buyback. Yeah, exactly.
Well, this has been great,
so-
man.
Yeah.
Thank you so
No,
much for doing this.
No, I appreciate
thanks, man.
anytime you want a New Zealand correspondent on anything, let us know because I'll be
right, you're
super
in.
keen.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a fun chat, and yeah, I really do hope that it's sort of it gets back to normal and everyone can start gigging properly again. You know what I mean? I know that you've got your rooftop gigs, but what's going to happen in winter?
It's
That's the
over.
other
I
thing.
mean,
New York,
it's going to be done. The rooftop's
Right.
finished.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we only have a few weeks left. So final thoughts on Jacinda Ardern. So mostly what we hear, mostly correct with shades of like, well, the Maori thing's not so good. This other thing's not so good, right?
she's
Is that where we
mostly,
are?
as good as advertised, we were saying, from your perspective.
Yeah, pretty much. So she's got like 50% of New Zealand as, that's a high percentage of the country is backing her to be Prime Minister. But there are people who don't like her. But yeah, I mean, I would say don't believe everything you read about her. But Taxinda's probably the new thing that you probably learnt as a nickname. But yeah, I think the next 3 years we'll find out, what she's really about. But hopefully she doesn't have any mass international news tragedies.
Well, she does. We'll have you back on. So.
Yeah, well, okay. Well, where there's a cloud, there's a silver lining, I guess.
All right. Well, everybody, check out Short
Yes, yeah,
Poppies
exactly.
on Netflix. Go on Netflix, check it out. And can we watch 7 Days online?
I don't think you can, but I tell you what you can do. If you go to Laugh Club NZ on Facebook or Instagram, we are basically uploading daily content up there from all of our stand-up shows. So you can jump on there, and we're just doing daily stuff, and it's pretty funny. If you want to see funny New Zealand television, go to Laugh Club NZ. There's this thing that I do. So there's a quiz show here in New Zealand that I get asked to go on, and I pride myself on never getting an answer right.
I was watching that today.
And so I haven't got an answer right on that channel. I'm the only one who's got 0 points all the time. And so it's become this thing in New Zealand now where it's like, oh, Nick's on, he's just only going to do joke answers. And it's really annoying to the producers. But it's fun.
And we
for
can
me.
watch at laughclub.z.
Laugh Club NZ. Yep. Or NZ. Sorry. Yes. NZ.
Get the plug right,
NZ.
yeah.
Yes.
Laugh Club NZ.
Get the plug right.
Yeah.
Get your own plug right.
Don't
All
Google
right.
aluminum.
That is it. Aluminium.com is the website. Thank you, Nick. It's been 10 years. It shouldn't have been that long. We'll see you
do it.
soon.
Yeah.
And
For
Kaplan, that's it. Everybody go to patreon.com/Lost in America. $5 a month. You get 3 extra shows a week. Support the show. Brought to you by you. Brought to you by our Patreon
Support the
subscribers.
#1 show in Armenia.
Exactly. Kaplan, that's it. What should we do?
I'm going to look up real estate in New Zealand and buy myself a little home, and I'm going to get lost.
Get lost.